Hey everybody, what's going on? I am DMDave. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Worldbuilding with DMDave. This brand new series, which I hope is successful, is going to follow my little quest to take an entire campaign world and build it from scratch and show you every step along the way. All the nitty-gritty stuff that it takes to conceive, create adventures for, and even play through it that I do on a regular basis as a professional 5th edition content creator. If you don't know me already, I am DMDave. I do create 5th edition content for a living. You can check out my stuff at patreon.com/DMDave or on my website at dmdave.com. As always, like the video, pretty please, because I love it when you do that, and be sure to subscribe. So, we are going to get started right away showing you the exact steps I'm going to take to start with this. So, a little background on me. I got back into 5th edition roughly 3 years ago, pretty much from this coming month in March. Started on St. Patrick's Day of 2018, haven't looked back since. Never guessed I would have done it professionally, but here I am. And anyways, when I was starting out, I was really inspired by the work of Dyson Logos. I was doing, excuse me, I think I was doing a Google search on for maps, and his seemed to just dominate the place. He uses sort of an old school style, which really harkens back to a time of like 1st edition and 2nd edition modules that I really dig. So it's kind of cool to be able to like use these maps and play with them. I used to play them at my normal table before COVID hit, and now I use a lot of them in my professional work. You can check out Dyson's website at dysonlogos.blog. If you're not familiar with the name, he is the artist at Wizard of the Coast who has done a number of products from Waterdeep Dragon Heist to Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I believe is involved with the new Candlekeep books that's coming out. Wouldn't be surprised if he was involved with the Ravenloft book as well. So dysonlogos.blog. If you go to the maps section, he's got a section on multi-page dungeons. Now, I'm going to be creating a multi-page dungeon in this, specifically the Dyson Mega Delve. It is not commercial content, so I do not own this. Dyson owns it. This is really just for recreation and editorial purposes, and also playing it with my patrons. But he does have a series of commercial maps and then some other cool maps, but we're going to be going to the multi-page dungeon. From this, the Dyson Mega Delve basically is his take on a giant dungeon. There are 30 maps in all, and this is kind of a, if you look right here, this is sort of an infographic that shows you kind of how they all come to be. And what I really like about this, more than say something like Undermountain, which appears in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, is that it isn't all just vertical levels on top of each other. It kind of has all these different directions to come in. You can see these little pink areas right here are the different exits into the dungeon. There are sections that are color coded that kind of like have like similar motifs, but each individual map has kind of its own flavor and different sorts of ecology and things that are living in it. You can actually see kind of a 3-dimensional model of all the individual maps pieced out and how they connect. I was really obsessed with this starting early on, and I've talked to him a couple times about possibly licensing it, but we've never hammered anything out. But since I knew that I wanted to run a new campaign with my patrons, I thought this is kind of where I wanted to start. Alright, so I have my core concept. I know that I want to do a campaign that takes place in the Dyson Mega Delve, but I don't know exactly where to begin. And my philosophy on world building is always to start small and work your way out. So I figured what I would do is start with one of the 6 entrances here, take just that map, and set an adventure there. And that's how I would introduce my players into this campaign world. I know all the other stuff exists and I can create it, but I want to take it slow, because the last thing you want to do as a DM, especially if you're doing this just on the weekends or part-time, is to really overwhelm yourself and burn yourself out by doing too much too fast. So I'm going to start small with this. I want to pick the Morloc Retreat. I think that is a good one here. I'll zoom in on this and I'll show you what I mean. You can see the Morloc Retreat area is this area right here at the top. It's got an exit from it, leads down deeper into the dungeon. The other stuff's pretty cool too. There's Lost River Caves, a giant citadel, which is really neat, and I've run some adventures there in the past, like a necropolis. There's a Harpy Tower that leads down into the yellow areas, which are a dwarven mine. But I'm going to start with the Morloc Retreat. And you can see he's got all the maps organized nice here. Let's click on Morloc Retreat. He gives a little bit of background on like what his fluff is, so I'm going to probably borrow some of that, basically telling us that there's not really Morlocks in 5th edition, but Grimlocks are pretty close, and Grimlocks are part of the Open Gaming License Standard systems reference document for 5th edition, so we can use those. And this is what the actual map looks like, right? So you can see there's this little ladder here that leads down into it, and then it goes further down into the dungeon at the end. So we're going to try to set the whole little adventure in this part right here. And then we will probably take some of his little background. And what's cool about Dyson is he's got a gridded version, and then he's got a non-gridded version here if you prefer that method there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the image here, and then I'm going to save this image to folder. And you can see I've already saved it, but this Morloc Retreat production grid, and then we've got it there. Okay, so we've got our map, so we kind of know what our area is going to look like. You would probably also, like, well, what I want to do next is put some color on this, okay? Because what I'm going to do eventually is put this on the Roll20, but before I put it on there, I want to do a little bit of editing on it, because bright white maps can be really garish to look at on Roll20, and Dyson doesn't generally color his maps, so we're going to have to do kind of that work for him. What I recommend doing is there's a cool little tool called Dungeon Draft, which you can get at dungeondraft.net. It's this little flame guy right here. I've already got it open, but I'll reboot it so you can see the whole process here. So it lives directly in your system, so it's not a software as a service or works in the cloud like something like Incarnate. So you actually have to download this program and get it. It's a really good program. It is a little buggy. I do recommend saving a lot while you're doing it. So we've got this open now. We're going to create new. I'm going to do, I think 40 by 40 should be big enough for this, and we can adjust it as need be. But once you create new, it gives you the size template here. We could do 40 by 40. We could start with the map wizard, but we don't really need that. The map wizard will create random dungeons for you. And I'm just going to use the basic asset pack, so I'm not going to put in the edit asset pack. But if you had an asset pack from one of your favorite designers online, you could put it in there and create from that. All right, so let's click OK. It's going to create our map for us. Like I said, when you're with Dungeon Draft, the very first thing you want to do is go ahead and save. We're going to call this Morloc Tunnels, and I'm going to save that into my Dyson folder. Okay, and that's going to save it directly on your thing so you can reference it later. All right, Dungeon Draft is a pretty cool tool. Very simple and straightforward. You don't have to be like a Photoshop whiz or anything to use it. You've got your menu, new option, new, open, save, export, your assets, and about. You've got the design, terrain, objects, effects, settings, text if you want it, prefabs which you can load in, and then your select tool. So a couple quick commands that you should know about. Right now you can see that I'm like zoomed in pretty good on this. If you hit the control key, which I think that's what it is on a Mac, I forget what it is on a PC. I think maybe the let's see, oh gosh, it's been a long time since I've had a PC. Somebody will tell me in the comments, but basically just hit the control button and then scroll with your mouse wheel and it'll let you zoom in and out. Then if you hold the space bar, and move your mouse around, it'll let you move around the map as so. So the combination of that, the control and zoom, and then space and pan. And you can see it's right down there at the bottom of the toolbars here. Okay. All right. So what I want to do is I want to import Dyson's map. What's cool is they have a cool feature under settings here. You go to trace image, and it opens up this file which lets you open up or import an image from your hard drive. I'm going to put that Morloc Retreat in there, and you can see we've got it loaded in for us. Okay, now it's going to start off pretty small, so we're going to have to resize this guy some. We want to try to get it so that his grids roughly match the built-in grid in Dungeon Draft. And it looks like I've gone a little too big, so let's go down to like 5.6 or so. And that looks pretty close. And then it's just a matter of adjusting until you get it. It adjusts the size both ways, so you can't do different for height and width. If you're not sure, a good trick for knowing how to adjust grid sizes in something like Dungeon Draft is to look at a long haul. If the grid on Dyson's map start slowly going beyond, that means it's probably a little bit too big, so you want to shrink the size. And if it's vice versa, where the maps on the Dungeon Draft are too big, then you need to do it the other way around. And I think that's probably close enough for what we want to do. It's a little bit off here and there, but it's close enough that I think we can really do it. Let's actually bring it down a little. We got some dead space here and there. Okay, so we can see, if I zoom out, you can see Dyson's map is probably a little bit too big. So I'm going to go to Menu. I'm going to change the map size. I'm going to add another 10 tiles up and to the left. And then I'm going to replace this. Nothing changed about the actual size, so we don't have to worry about that. But we want to get this nice and lined up again. Nothing's bleeding over. We'll probably trim some of this off once we trace it. But for now, we've already got it built on there. And remember, let's go ahead and save. So you can hit Command S or whatever it is on the on a PC. It's funny, I've only had a Mac for a few years, and I've already forgotten how to use PC shortcodes. And what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to leave it here. This will be kind of our first clip. So just to recap what we've done, we've found a free map online through DysonLogos.blog. We've opened up our Dungeon Draft, which you can get at dungeondraft.net. I have imported Dyson's map directly into there, and I've sized the grid to go with it. On the next clip of this, I'm going to go ahead and start tracing this image using Dungeon Draft's tools, and then start making it look all pretty for when I run this with my party. Anyways, thanks a lot. If you liked what you saw in this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on DMDave builds a world building, whatever I decide to call it. World building with DMDave. Anyways, thanks.